We want to look at the graphs of rational functions, vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, and slant asymptotes. To begin with, if you have a rational function, we're talking about one polynomial divided by another. You want to make sure that you have no common factors in your numerator and denominator, nothing that would cancel top and bottom. So once you have eliminated any common factors, you can set your denominator equal to 0 to find your vertical asymptotes. So for instance, in example number 2, every one of our denominators is x squared minus 1. So if we want to find the vertical asymptote, we'll set x squared minus 1 equal to 0. So add 1 to both sides, take the square root of both sides, be sure to put in your plus or minus, and when you do, you'll get x is equal to a positive and a negative 1. So those will be your vertical asymptotes. X equals positive 1, x equals negative 1. And since the denominator was the same for each of these, the asymptotes will be the same. To find the horizontal asymptote, you're going to compare the degree of your numerator with the degree of your denominator. So we're using n for the numerator and m for the denominator. If the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator, your horizontal asymptote will be y equals 0. If the degree of the numerator equals the degree of the denominator, your horizontal asymptote will be y equals the leading coefficient of the numerator over the leading coefficient of the denominator. And if the degree of your numerator is larger than your denominator, then you won't have a horizontal asymptote. All right, so let's look at example 2 again. If we look at this first one, what's the degree of your numerator? Well, it's 1. And what's the degree of your denominator? It's 2. So when the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator, your horizontal asymptote will be y equals 0. If you look at the next one, the degree of the numerator is 2 and the degree of the denominator is 2. So when the degree of the numerator and denominator are equal, your horizontal asymptote will be the leading coefficient of the numerator over the leading coefficient of the denominator. So right here, the leading coefficient of the numerator is 2, and out in front, the leading coefficient of the denominator is going to be an understood 1. So that would give us 2 over 1, or y equals 2 for our horizontal asymptote. And then for our last one, if you compare the degree of the numerator is 3 and the degree of the denominator is 2, so when the degree of the numerator is larger than the degree of the denominator, you do not have a horizontal asymptote.